The savanna hides dangers that are impossible to notice from afar. This time, one of them trapped a very young elephant calf. Somehow, its trunk became caught tightly between the thick branches of a tree. No one knows how it happened. The calf tried to pull its trunk free, then stepped back, then forward again and again. Nothing worked. With each attempt, panic grew. Eventually, the calf began to cry out, not only in fear, but as if calling desperately for help. The cry echoed across the savanna, louder and farther than the calf could ever imagine. It cut through the dry air, rolled over tall grass, slipped between scattered trees, carrying fear, confusion, and urgency with every broken breath. But the sound did not reach only the one the calf was hoping for. On the distant horizon, movement began. At first, it was almost invisible, dark shapes low against the grass, blending with heat and dust. Hyenas. They stopped, listened, heads tilted slightly as their ears locked onto the sound. They had learned long ago that panic often meant opportunity. Slowly, cautiously, they moved closer. They never rushed. Each step was deliberate. They paused often, testing the wind, scanning the ground. The calf struggled again, pulling desperately at its trapped trunk. The movement confirmed everything the hyenas needed to know. The calf was alone, and it could not run. One hyena approached from downwind. Another circled wide, vanishing briefly into the grass before reappearing on the opposite side. Low, excited sounds broke the silence, half laughter, half hunger. The calf panicked. It thrashed its body, kicked at the ground, cried out again, louder, sharper. But with every movement, the branches tightened their grip around its trunk. Pain spread across its face and chest. Breathing became shallow, uneven. Minutes passed, and in the wild, minutes can decide everything. The hyenas closed in. One lunged forward, snapping at the calf's leg before jumping back. Another tested from the side, biting and retreating, then returning again. They were not trying to kill it quickly. They were waiting for exhaustion to do the work for them. The calf fought back with everything it had. It kicked wildly, swung its head, screamed until its voice began to fail. Dust rose around its small body as it struggled to stay upright, but fear drained its strength faster than it could recover it. The hyenas sensed the change. Their movements became bolder, faster. The circle tightened. For the calf, the world collapsed into noise, pain, and the crushing pressure around its trapped trunk. The vast savanna, so open moments before, now felt impossibly small. If no help came soon, the calf would not survive. And then, beneath the chaos, another sound began to rise, deep, heavy, unmistakable. The ground trembled faintly, as if answering the calf's cries. Something powerful was coming. Then, everything changed. At first, it was barely noticeable. A distant vibration beneath the chaos. A low, rhythmic tremor moving through the ground. The hyenas felt it too. They paused, heads lifted, ears turned away from the calf and toward the open savanna. The sound grew louder with every second, heavy, fast, unstoppable. It was coming closer. And then she appeared. The mother elephant burst through the trees, her massive body moving with a speed that defied her size. Dust exploded beneath her feet. Her ears were spread wide. Her trunk swung low and tense. She had been searching, guided by memory, by instinct, by the sound of her calf's fear. When she saw him, trapped, surrounded, barely standing, something inside her shifted. The hyenas did not flee immediately. They tested her. One snapped forward, teeth bared. Another darted to the side, trying to distract her, trying to hold ground they no longer owned. But the balance of power was unmistakable. She charged. The force of her movement sent the nearest hyena tumbling backward. Another barely escaped as her foot slammed into the earth inches from its body. A single swing of her trunk sent dust and warning through the air. The message was clear. This was not a hunt. This was a mother. The hyenas hesitated for one final moment, then turned and ran, tails low, confidence gone, vanishing into the grass they had once ruled. The savannah fell silent again. The mother rushed to her calf. She touched his face with her trunk, tracing the lines of fear and pain. She stayed close, blocking every direction, her body a living shield. The calf leaned toward her, breathing hard, trembling. But the danger was not over. He was still trapped. The mother pushed against the branches with her head. She pulled with her trunk, twisted, braced her weight, tried again and again. The wood did not break. The pressure did not release. The calf cried out softly now, exhausted, fading. Minutes passed. The mother tried harder. She strained until her muscles shook. She repositioned, pulled from new angles, forced her strength into the branches, but nothing moved. The tree held firm, and the calf was growing weaker. For the first time, hesitation crossed her movements. She stood still, breathing heavily, eyes fixed on her calf. The savannah offered no answers, no help, no mercy. Then she made a choice no mother should ever have to make. She stepped back, one last touch with her trunk, one last breath shared, and then she turned and ran, straight into the open land, toward the unknown, toward the only chance her calf had left. The mother elephant rushed back to her calf. She pressed her massive body close, blocking the open space around him, shielding him from everything she could see and everything she could not. Her trunk moved gently over his face, along his head, across the tight branches gripping him, trying to calm him, trying to reassure him. But the danger was not over. The calf was still trapped. The mother stepped back and pushed the branches with her head, driving her full weight forward. The wood bent slightly, then snapped back into place. She pulled with her trunk, twisting and yanking, testing every angle she could reach. Nothing gave. She tried again, this time harder. She braced herself, planted her feet deep into the soil, and pulled with everything she had. Muscles tightened beneath her skin. Dust rose around them. The branches creaked, but they did not break. The calf cried out, weaker now. The sound was no longer panic. It was exhaustion. The mother froze for a moment, then changed her approach. She pulled lower, then higher. She wrapped her trunk around the branches and twisted violently, hoping for a fracture, a crack, anything. Still nothing. The tree held firm. Minutes passed. The calf's movements slowed. His legs trembled. His breathing became shallow and uneven. Each breath took more effort than the last. The mother stayed close, touching him between attempts, urging him to stay upright, to stay awake. She snorted softly, low and urgent, as if trying to speak to him in the only language she had. She pushed again and again. Her strength was undeniable, but it was not enough. The branches were too thick, the grip too tight, and time was no longer on their side. For the first time since she arrived, the mother stopped. She stood still, chest rising and falling heavily, eyes fixed on her calf. Around them, the savannah remained indifferent, silent, vast, unmoving. No herd answered, no help came. The calf sagged against the branches, barely able to hold himself upright. If nothing changed soon, he would collapse. And the mother knew it. She lowered her head and touched him one last time, holding her trunk there longer than before, as if memorizing his warmth, his scent, his presence. Then she lifted her head. She looked out across the open land, and she understood. Staying meant losing him. Leaving was the only chance he had left. The mother elephant stood motionless. For a moment, the savannah seemed to hold its breath with her. Her calf was still trapped behind her, weak, barely standing, his cries now reduced to soft, broken sounds that faded into the air. Every instinct in her body screamed to stay, to protect, to fight until nothing was left. But instinct was also what told her something else. Nothing here was changing. She had used her strength, she had used her size, she had used every angle, every movement, every breath, and it was not enough. The mother lifted her head and looked out across the open land. The horizon stretched endlessly, flat, empty, indifferent. No herd approached, no help came, only silence. She turned back to her calf, one last touch of her trunk across his face, one slow breath shared between them. Then she did something that went against everything she was. She turned away. She began to run. At first, it was slow, hesitant, uncertain, then faster. Her massive legs carried her across the savannah in long, powerful strides. Dust rose behind her as she moved farther and farther from the sound she feared losing forever. She did not stop. She ran toward a place memory told her was different, a place where strange shapes moved, where the ground carried unfamiliar smells, where sometimes humans appeared. The savannah blurred past her, trees, grass, open stretches of land. Time stretched and compressed with every step. Behind her, the calf cried again. The sound was faint now, almost lost. The mother ran harder. Then, movement. Ahead, something unnatural broke the line of the land, a vehicle. She slowed, cautious but desperate. She approached, ears spread wide, body lowered, not in threat, but in urgency. She called out loudly, a deep, resonant sound that carried across the air. The humans stopped. They looked at her. Then, from far behind her, came the answer, a weak, distant cry. The sound reached the people just as it reached her. Understanding passed between them in silence. This was not chance. This was not coincidence. The mother turned and began to move again, slower now, deliberately. She looked back once, waiting. The vehicle followed. She led them across the savannah, step by step, guiding them not with force, but with trust. Every few moments, she paused, listening, making sure the sound behind her still existed. It did, barely. As they moved, the sun dipped lower, stretching shadows across the land. Time was slipping away. But now, for the first time, the mother was no longer alone. She was bringing help, and everything depended on whether it would arrive in time. When they arrived, the situation was clear immediately. The calf was still trapped, his small body pressed awkwardly against the branches, his breathing shallow and uneven. Every movement sent a ripple of pain through him. He barely reacted as the vehicle stopped nearby. There was no time to discuss options. The rangers moved fast, but not recklessly. One of them grabbed a saw from the back of the vehicle. Another stepped closer to assess the angle of the branches, signaling where to cut and where not to touch. Every decision mattered. One wrong move could injure the calf or make the trap tighter. The mother elephant stood only a short distance away. She watched everything. Her body was tense, ready to charge at the slightest threat. Her eyes followed every movement of the humans. Her trunk lifted, tasting the air. She did not interfere, but she did not relax either. The first cut began. Slow, controlled, deliberate. The saw bit into the wood, its sound cutting sharply through the silence of the savannah. The calf flinched weakly. A ranger immediately paused, placing a calming hand against the branch, waiting for the calf's breathing to steady. Seconds stretched, sweat formed on foreheads, dust drifted in the air. The mother let out a low, vibrating rumble. Warning, fear, patience, all at once. The cutting resumed. Bit by bit, the branch weakened. The pressure shifted slightly, just enough for the calf to gasp and lift his head. But he did not try to move. He had no strength left for that. One ranger signaled for fluids. Another prepared a mild calming injection, careful to keep movements slow and visible. They spoke softly, not to the calf, but to the mother. The saw cut deeper. The wood began to crack. Everyone froze. A sharp sound echoed as the branch finally gave way. The pressure released suddenly, but cleanly. The remaining branches fell aside. The calf collapsed. For a split second, no one moved. Then the rangers rushed forward, checking his breathing, his heartbeat, his eyes. He was alive, but barely. His body trembled as exhaustion overtook him completely. They worked quickly now. The calf was gently repositioned, his neck and trunk examined for injuries. A ranger cleaned the abrasions where the branches had pressed into his skin. Another started fluids, holding the line steady as the calf lay motionless. The mother stepped closer, very close, so close that the rangers could feel the ground vibrate beneath her weight. She reached out with her trunk, stopping just short of touching the calf, waiting, watching, deciding. No one told her to move back. No one needed to. She understood. The operation continued under her gaze. Every movement slowed. Every action became more deliberate. Minutes passed. Then, finally, one ranger nodded. The calf was free. But freedom was only the beginning. He was alive, and that alone made everything worth the risk. Night approached slowly, almost carefully, as if the savannah itself was unsure how to move forward. The sky darkened in layers. Gold faded to orange, orange to deep blue. Shadows stretched longer across the land, swallowing the details of the day. The heat retreated, replaced by a cool stillness that carried every sound farther than before. The team did not leave. They stayed close. The calf lay on the ground, wrapped and supported, breathing shallow but steady. Fluids continued to drip slowly. Every rise and fall of his chest was watched, counted, silently hoped for. Inside the vehicle, no one spoke much. There was nothing to say. Outside, the mother remained nearby. She did not rest. She stood for long stretches of time, barely moving, her massive shape a dark outline against the fading light. Occasionally, she shifted her weight, lifted her trunk, tasted the air. Every sound, every rustle of grass, every distant call was measured. The savannah was never truly silent. Hyenas laughed somewhere far away. Insects filled the air with a constant hum. A night bird called, then another answered. Life continued, indifferent to what had almost been lost. Hours passed. The team took turns watching the calf. One ranger checked the IV line. Another monitored breathing and temperature. A flashlight beam moved gently over the calf's body, careful not to startle him. He stirred once, just slightly. A small movement of his leg, a faint twitch of his trunk. Everyone froze. Then he settled again. Still breathing, still here. The mother noticed everything. When the calf moved, she stepped closer, not touching, just close enough. Her presence alone seemed to steady him, as if he knew she was there even in sleep. Midnight came and went. The sky above was filled with stars, sharp and countless. The savannah lay open beneath them, vast and exposed. In the darkness, danger still existed. Predators still moved. But tonight, none came near, as if something invisible had drawn a boundary around them. The night felt endless and fragile. Every minute that passed was a victory. Every breath a quiet promise, but not a guarantee. Toward morning, the calf's breathing grew deeper, more regular. The tension inside the vehicle eased slightly, though no one allowed themselves relief. Not yet. The mother finally lowered herself, folding her legs beneath her. It was the first sign of rest she had shown since finding her calf. Even then, her head remained raised, ears alert, eyes open, waiting. As the first hint of dawn began to lift the darkness, the savannah shifted again. The night had not taken him. But the story was not finished. Not yet. Morning arrived quietly. No dramatic sound, no sudden movement, just light. The first rays of the sun slipped across the savannah, revealing a landscape that looked unchanged, vast, open, indifferent. But something was different. The team stepped out of the vehicle. The stretcher was empty. The thermal covering lay crumpled on the ground, untouched by panic, untouched by struggle. For a brief moment, no one spoke. Hearts tightened. Eyes searched the grass, the trees, the shadows left behind by night. The calf was gone. Then someone pointed. Just a short distance away, near the edge of the trees, a familiar shape stood still. The calf, on his feet, unsteady but standing. Beside him was his mother. She was calm now, relaxed, reaching up to pull leaves from a low branch as if nothing extraordinary had happened, as if the night before had not nearly taken everything from her. The calf leaned toward her, copying her movements. His trunk lifted awkwardly, learning again how to move freely. He took a step, then another, alive, together. No one approached them. No one needed to. This was not a moment to interrupt. From a distance, the team watched as the mother turned and began to walk, slowly at first, then with quiet confidence. The calf followed, staying close, brushing against her side, reassured by every step. Farther out on the savannah, shapes began to emerge. The herd. They gathered without urgency, without fear. The mother guided her calf forward, and the group closed around them naturally, touching, sensing, confirming. The family was whole again. Within minutes they were moving as one, disappearing into the open land, swallowed by distance and light. The savannah returned to its rhythm, as if nothing had happened. But something had. A life had nearly ended, and didn't. Not because of strength alone, not because of instinct alone, but because of a rare moment when paths crossed, when trust replaced fear, when help arrived at exactly the right time. In the wild, survival does not always announce itself. Sometimes it simply walks away at sunrise, still breathing, still together. And stories like this only endure if they are shared. If moments like this matter to you, if you believe these lives are worth witnessing, stay with us. Subscribe, because somewhere out there, another story is still unfolding.